What's up, guys? I'm hazy.crumblord, and this is Hazy Does Horror. As you can see, I've made some small additions to my background. I got a new shelf with some lighting. I started collecting Funko Pops. My wife got me this little Reaper dude that sits on the shelf. So I'm working on adding to my backlight. I need to get some more adapters. This little it mask lights up, and I really like it, but the batteries don't last very long, and I just need to get more adapters and plug it in. But I'm working on it. It is a work in progress. I will get there. I'm also working on my lighting. I got a different sort of camera set up. It'll it'll improve. It is being worked on in the interim. I saw Shelby Oaks this weekend, and let's talk about it. So Shelby Oaks is a found footage style horror movie, directorial debut from longtime YouTube movie critic Chris Stuckman. It had a huge Kickstarter, was crowdfunded to get it up and running. Um, it was written and directed by Chris Stuckman, and I had been looking forward to seeing this movie. It is a found footage style, which I like. It is indie horror, which I like. Um, it is from Chris Stuckman, who I have always enjoyed. Uh, but after I saw it, I'm sorry to say that I really did not like this movie very much. Um, the story seemed pretty thin. The cast maybe was okay. I'm not sure if I wasn't happy with the acting or if it was just the material the actors had to work with. Um, I didn't really feel any tension or any concern. Nothing about it was really very scary. None of it was, I thought, very interesting. Um, it's just, there's really the only thing about this movie I can say that I liked is that Chris Stuckman, you can tell, knows how to put film together to look good. But even in that, while it was very proficient, I didn't see anything amazing. I was like, "Oh my god, how'd this happen?" No, it was all seemed pretty basic. Um, so yeah, too long didn't read. Did not love it, unfortunately. I also have some thoughts on maybe why the film is being perceived worse than it should be. So one of the considerations is the team that made Talk to Me and then subsequently made Bring Her Back were YouTube personalities first that moved into movies and were very successful. And to my knowledge, Chris Stuckman is the second YouTuber to have this opportunity. When you juxtapose these two projects, it's very easy to see where if the guys that did Talk to Me made this kind of movie that you would expect when Chris Stuckman would make his movie to have a similar quality or above. And the reality is this is just not that movie. I don't think it was ever meant to be that movie. My initial reaction when I left the movie theater was almost frustration that I paid money to see this movie in a theater. If I was perusing around on like Tubi TV looking for some indie horror or maybe Shudder, and I stumbled across this indie horror film by Chris Stuckman and I watched the movie that we got, I think my reaction would have been very different. I would have been, maybe I still wouldn't have loved everything about the movie, but there is definitely, you can see the building blocks of what would be good horror. And that would have, I believe, made me excited to see what he does next, even though I probably would still be a little disappointed in what we received. That perception is different. The expectation is different coming off of movies like Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, coming into the next YouTubers who has this big movie break and you're going to a theatrical release to see a movie. I just think this would have done, it would have served Chris and the film both better had this just been an indie horror that went right to streaming and acted as a step towards the next project. So those are my initial thoughts. If you are interested in seeing this movie spoiler free, click out now, because from here I am going to talk about the movie. I'm going to talk about spoilers. Nothing is sacred, so just be aware of that. Here's your warning. Last one. So, Shelby Oaks is about a group of paranormal YouTube investigators called the Paranormal Paranoids, and they go missing when they're investigating this prison. Um, they all go missing except for our lead character Mia. Her sister Riley is never recovered, and it's something like 10 or 12 years later. I don't remember the exact time frame, but a documentary team is interviewing Mia about Riley's disappearance and about the fact that they found the rest of the crew team. They were dead and they didn't find Riley. And that just stokes Mia's belief that Riley isn't dead, that she just hasn't been found yet. Um, she has a struggling relationship with her husband. They had failed to conceive a child. There's been stress because of Riley missing. Aside from that, like, we don't get a lot of backstory about the characters, so we don't have a lot else to go on. But toward the end of this interview being shot, a man shows up at the house and he says something like, "She finally let me go," and shoots himself in the head right on Mia's front door. He's also holding a small VHS tape that says Shelby Oaks, and it has footage. I don't remember exactly what's on the footage, but it pertains to Riley. It may be specifically about Riley. Again, sorry, I saw this yesterday. I've been thinking about what I wanted to talk about, but I forget exactly what's on that footage. But that prompts Mia to go into her own investigation to try and figure out what happened to her sister. The investigative skills are nothing impressive. I don't know where they come from, but there's these hellhounds that show up and start sort of lingering around her house. She goes to visit this prison, which I don't understand how she went there. I mean, she went to this abandoned prison by herself, broke in, found the cell where this guy was staying. This is the guy that came and shot himself at her door. He stayed in this prison. It's the same prison her sister was investigating. She went in by herself, just broke in, found the cell. There was writing all over the walls that showed that this guy in his cell was aware of Mia and Riley. Their initials were in a heart on his wall, the same way they used to put them in trees. And the symbol of this demon was on the wall, and it was the same symbol that was on the wall where the rest of the film crew, the missing paranormal paranoids, when they were found, this symbol was smeared on the walls where their corpses were found. It's just not, I don't know, there's something about it, like, it was too on the nose. It was too easy for her to just go in there. All the information was just right there on the walls. It was never discussed before. Maybe it wasn't there when the cops were checking the cell. I don't know. It's everything about it just felt unsatisfactory. Then one of these hellhounds ends up leading her out to this house where this old lady lives in the middle of the woods in Shelby Oaks, invites Mia in, and Mia, through talking to her, snoops around and finds a photo album with a bunch of pictures of her sister, confronts the woman, and it turns out that her sister is in a cage in the basement of this house and has been used as basically a breeding vessel for this guy that had escaped jail, that is the same guy that came and shot himself at Mia's front door. And apparently they had been trying to, like, he had been just impregnating Riley over and over from what I ascertain. And then the end of the movie is very lackluster. Again, that the hellhounds come. The whole movie is around Mia looking for her sister. And then at the end of the movie, she had found her sister. She's back home, and one of these babies that she had with this guy, they brought home too. And spoiler, if you don't want to know the end, Riley ends up dying. Mia lets it happen, and then she falls out of a window. Riley falls out of a window, and she's ripped apart by these hellhounds that I don't even know how they actually fit into the movie. There was this, it revolves around this old woman is in that house, was working with this incubus that was trying to, I don't know, put himself into a baby, maybe. I don't know. They don't really explain it, so you sort of have to infer what's going on. So Mia ends up letting her sister die after finally finding her and keeping this baby. There's other plot points. Apparently, this demon used to stand outside their window when they were kids. They had seen him before. And when he does, like, the window would crack. And that was an interesting feature. And apparently, one night, because Riley was scared of this creature that would come to her window, Mia went and slept in the same bed with Riley, and while she was in there, she woke up and saw this demon too. And I guess that is supposed to be when the demon latched onto her and was using her sister to get this baby to get back to Mia. I don't know. It wasn't a very thick plot, but it also wasn't really explained exactly what was happening very well. The whole thing just sort of drug for me. Again, Chris Stuckman apparently knows how to put a film together. Maybe it was just the writing. Maybe next time you should just stick to a directorial role and work on someone else's project that someone else had written. Maybe there was more to this than we know. Maybe there was a lot that was changed, a lot that was cut out. Maybe one day Chris Stuckman will talk about all of this and we'll find out exactly what happened. I had looked on Rotten Tomatoes for this movie, and it was around like mid-50s for both critics and audience. And honestly, I am surprised it's that high. I would not have thought this would have been above 50s. For me, it's definitely lower. I still think you should see it. I would recommend waiting for it to go to streaming. But this was a miss for me. See it just for so you have it in your head. You've seen it, you know what's there. So when Chris puts out his next movie, hopefully it will be a pretty substantial improvement, and you can see the progress and watch his growth as a filmmaker, movie director, and as his career blossoms. Hopefully that will improve. So I'm still holding out hope that the next thing he does are going to be great, but this was a really big miss for me, unfortunately. So yeah, if you guys saw it, let me know what you think in the comments. If you haven't seen it but you want to, talk to me about that too. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you next time.